the world.
There are more things in heaven and earth that are dreamt of in your philosophies. Truer lines have rarely been spoken, and the numerous unexplained mysteries, even in our science and tech-infused modern world, stand proof of this. No matter how much we may have advanced as a society, every once in a while comes a case so bizarre, hovering on the borders of paranormal and magical, that we find it hard to justify with logic and rationality. Files of the Unexplained by Netflix is an exciting docuseries that covers a few of these infamous events, and in this video, we will explore these events of some memorable UFO conspiracy theories that have been uncovered in the 4th episode. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
From dead center of this thing, there came a milky white light.
As the government kept UFO sightings by servicemen a secret, exploring the episode. The responsibilities of the U.S. government, or any government for that matter, on the safekeeping of their country are paramount. In order to fulfill such responsibilities, there is often a need for some high-level secrecy, and a crazy lot goes on under the garb of classified information. The 4th episode of Files of the Unexplained, titled Government's UFO Conspiracy, looks into few accounts of ex-servicemen who had first-hand experiences and interactions with UFOs. However, the government was quick to make an attempt to silence them, and when they eventually spoke out, they were ignored and invalidated. This narrative ought to be taken very seriously because the men in question here are seasoned veterans and have a lot more credibility than random people claiming to have seen aliens or UFOs. The episode starts off with Terry Lovelace, who was a staff sergeant at the time, explaining his ordeal. He was stationed at Whiteman Air Force Base in western Missouri, and he was a non-flying officer in the force. He states that it all started one morning when he could no longer bear weight on his right leg. His knees were hurting a lot, and he rushed to the hospital only to find something shocking. An X-ray of his legs revealed that there was a foreign object inside his body, a square little structure with wires attached to it on the inside of his leg. The examiner was just as surprised as him when he realized that this foreign object was under the skin without any possible explanation of how it got there. Terry then goes on to talk about an experience that happened many years ago when he served in the Air Force. One night, he went camping with his friend Toby, and the two saw a strange array of flashing lights and a massive UFO that was the size of a Walmart. He claims that a milky white light emerged from the center of this UFO, and it took him inside the spacecraft momentarily. He soon became unconscious, but when he awoke, he saw some flashing yellow, orange, and white lights that made no sense. The lights were just outside the tent that they had set up, and both friends were left shaken. The fateful day was the 11th of June, 1977, and the two friends had gone to the Devil's Den State Park. Both Terry and Toby were taken into the spacecraft according to Terry's account in the episode, and he claimed that he couldn't move a muscle in his body except his eyes. He described the aliens as individuals who wore tan-colored flight suits with an orange patch on their shoulders. One of them was working on a panel, and Terry was taken through a corridor and he underwent what seemed like a detailed medical examination. Terry remembers how he never felt threatened during that time, as if there was a telepathic message from the aliens that they weren't there to kill him. What followed was the deep sleep or almost unconscious state, and when he finally woke up again, there was no decent explanation for what just happened as the two friends watched the spaceship take off and disappear. Terry and Toby immediately drove back, but they were both dehydrated, and the first light of dawn was hurting Terry's eyes. Both Terry and Toby were taken to the Whiteman Air Force Base Hospital, and examinations revealed that Terry had flash burns in the cornea of of his eyes. He spent a few days in the hospital, and finally he was paid a visit by an official from the Office of Special Investigations. Strangely enough, he seemed to know that Terry had some otherworldly experience out there, and he also knew Terry saw a spaceship. Later, he was forbidden by his commanding officer to never talk about his experiences with anyone, and he was even asked to keep his distance from Toby. On the other hand, Toby was transferred to Japan very quickly, and it was almost like the authorities were desperately trying to ensure that the events in Devil's Den never got out in the public. Coming back to his knee pain that revealed the foreign object in his body, Terry hired the services of a private investigator who previously worked with the CIA. In a bizarre twist, Terry reveals how he was all set to have the foreign object surgically removed, but it miraculously disappeared one day. He experienced pain in the morning once again, and this time when he went for an X-ray, there was no trace of this foreign object. What is even more mysterious is that there was a visible wound on his legs, as though it was taken out in his sleep. Was it a tracking device kind of thing positioned inside his body by the aliens, or was it the government who placed it to keep a tab on his whereabouts? Now we'll never know. The bizarre experience of John Burrows, an airport security officer in England. Terry is not the only one who has been shut down by the government, and the experience of John Burrows is also somewhat similar. According to his own account in the episode, John was stationed at the RAF base in Bentwaters Woodbridge. The experience of his UFO sighting took place outside the east gate of the base, and it happened on the 26th of December, 1980. John was riding with his supervisor when they noticed some strange lights in the night sky descending on the nearby forest. It was decided that the light would be investigated, and John reveals how eerie his experience was in the forest. Nothing felt right, and there seemed to be an unexplained white light all around them. An oval-shaped red ball was present within the source of this light, and there was a blue light below it. Finally, this UFO or spaceship shot off into the distance, and the higher authorities at the airport could not make sense of this event. Later, when John and his fellow men went back to the site at night, they found some indentations on the ground, and there seemed to be some damage in the forest as if something had landed there. What makes his experience disturbing is the aftermath of his UFO sighting. After leaving the Air Force, his health reports and tests were classified by the forces. John experienced certain health issues, and he was baffled when previous health records were refused by the Air Force. However, even after such efforts, John Burrows' name leaked out, and CNN even created an elaborate news report. They couldn't feature him because he wasn't permitted by the force to be part of such tell-all events. Officials denied that any such incident took place, and once again, there seemed to be a conscious effort to underplay the UFO sighting. The most famous UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon. This seems like the perfect term for such flying objects or unexplained otherworldly reports, and one of the most famous UAP has been discussed in the last part of the episode. This incident is more recent, from January 2015, when a pilot was operating with his squadron off Florida. They captured a strange video during their flight, and they have a high-quality video footage of the entire incident. The UFO rotates like a gimbal, and you can even hear the voices of the surprised pilots in this video. These objects were not threatening in any manner, but this incident brought out the secrecy of the government on such matters once again. There seems to be no clear protocol on acknowledging such incidents, which has only fueled the curiosity of the people further. After repeated demands, a preliminary report was published which categorized UAPs. What has the Pentagon stance been on UFO sightings over the years? UFO sightings are commonly reported from across the world, and in the U.S. alone, there are numerous cases every year where people claim to have spotted these unidentified flying objects. Recently, Pentagon officials announced that they are examining and tracking many of these UFO reports, and these alleged UFO sightings are being investigated. While this might suggest that the government takes such things very seriously, seriously, the true seriousness of the matter, many claim, is carefully hidden by the authorities. The reports of UFO sightings go back to the times of the Second World War, when many pilots reported unexplained lights of flying objects in the sky. The Air Force initially showed a lot of interest in these cases, and high-ranked officials even said that they would be on guard to investigate if the UFO sightings pose any threat to the United States. However, when the sightings grew to thousands, too many of them were not resolved, and the Air Force shut things down by providing a cliched and decisive statement that the UFO sightings were not important or threatening enough to probe further. Of course, the internal probes and investigations continued, but the government no longer wanted to be on the constant media watch and public attention. The events explored in this episode of Files of the Unexplained further prove that the authorities continued to be dismissive of such cases in public, and the real truth and seriousness of these matters are far more to them than they would let out. There is also a possibility that many of the UFO sightings are actually just top-secret military experiments that they are keen to keep under wraps. Due to their classified nature, even the servicemen are not aware of these experiments, which sometimes creates confusion like you have seen in this episode. Marvelous verdict, secrecy justified as long as the country is safe. Yes, it doesn't sound very progressive when you hear about a democratic government withholding information or denying validity to the experiences of some of their veterans. However, different circumstances demand different approaches, and you cannot really fault the authorities for keeping such things a secret over the years. If they started to acknowledge every single convincing UFO event, there would be widespread panic among the public, which would do no one any good. Area 51 and similar secret programs and regions are kept away from the limelight for a reason, and maybe it is best to leave such things for the experts to handle. As long as our country is safe from a brutal alien invasion, we are happy to watch such thrilling documentaries on Netflix and discuss about them in fun videos. Don't forget to let us know about your views on UFO sightings and many of the conspiracy theories surrounding this particular event. Also, tell us what you like about this new Netflix series and which one of the episodes has shocked you the most. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.